My name is Chris Williams. I'm a medical physicist and now a member of the 2021 astronaut candidate class. I was born in New York City and then grew up in Potomac, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. It was a great place to grow up. Had a lot of opportunities, great schools, and great access to a lot of the neat stuff in Washington, D.C. that you know, all the museums and the Air and Space Museum, all of that. So it's a great place to grow up. Yeah, so before being selected as an astronaut candidate, I was working as a medical physicist at one of the hospitals and cancer centers in Boston. And so what that means is I was working on the technical side of how we use radiation to treat and try to cure cancers. So spending a little bit of my time working on research, and the rest of my time working on directly helping to support patient treatments. Yeah, so I think in my own words, what is a NASA astronaut? So NASA astronaut's a couple of things. I think first and foremost, it's somebody that explores, somebody that's working on furthering the mission of human exploration. I think the other thing that a NASA astronaut is sort of a representative of NASA. We're really lucky to be sort of the tip of a huge organization that's all working together to try to achieve some pretty amazing things. When did I decide to be an astronaut? Well, I think as far back as I can remember, you know, when I was a tiny little kid, I've always had this sort of dream of being an astronaut. And I think when I was a kid, that was very much a dream inspired by seeing space shuttle launches on the TV and that sort of thing, and then learning about the history of the space program going back to the early days. And that kind of inspired me to think about it. But you know, as I kind of progressed in my career, it went from being sort of this pie in the sky dream to something that I was like, hey, wait a second, maybe this is something I could actually really do. So as far as back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a NASA astronaut. And I'm not sure where the first spark came from, but I think a lot of it came from as a kid seeing space shuttle launches on TV, and then in history class kind of learning about the early days of the space program and learning about that. And you know, it kind of struck a couple chords within me, this idea that you could explore beyond what we normally think of as sort of being accessible to humanity, and you could explore that by excellence in science and technology and sort of achieving and sort of accomplishing seemingly impossible things. The selection process was absolutely incredible. Because of COVID, I think it ended up being a little bit different, but you know, I just submitted an application online way back, basically right at the beginning of the pandemic, and you know, sort of just was in a holding pattern for basically a year. And then one day we get a call to come down for an interview, and that was probably one of the most humbling experiences of my life, meeting all of these just absolutely incredible people down here, the other interviewees, and just meeting people from all different walks of life. You know, coming in as a physicist, meeting people who were, you know, test pilots, had worked in Antarctica. You just got to meet this really incredible group of people, and you know, it was just really humbling to meet all these people who had done these incredible things in their lives. And so it was great to get to meet everybody, and here we are on the other side. But it was just a really incredible process coming down here, meeting these people in person, and then seeing NASA in person. Yeah, so when I got the call to come down and be a NASA astronaut, that was just an absolutely surreal day. I was working from home that day, and I'd just gotten back from walking to drop my daughter off at daycare. I'd come back and had one meeting, and then I had about a 15-minute break between the end of one meeting and the start of the next one. So I was just fixing myself a cup of coffee, and my phone rings, and I'd been getting a lot of spam callers on my cell phone, but I knew that it was a Texas area code. So I was like, all right, I should probably answer this one. And it was Reed Wiseman, the chief of the Astronaut office, and Ann Romer on the phone. And we'd kind of talked amongst our interview group, and I'd heard the scuttlebutt that if the chief of the Astronaut office calls, it's probably a good call. And so I'd really psyched myself, having met everybody on the interview process, I'd really psyched myself up for, everybody's incredible. There's no way that I'm going to make it to the next stage. But, and then when Reed was on the other end of the phone, I just, my brain kind of went into shock, realizing that, wait, this might actually be the good call. And it was. And so I sort of had a really hard time focusing on work the rest of the day. And I as soon as I got the call, I texted my wife to call me back. And my wife's a doctor and anesthesiologist. She works in a hospital, and she called me back, and I told her the news. And it was probably not the best thing, because she was just about to go start a surgery case on a patient, and so it put her in a totally different zone as well. But yeah, it was a great, an awesome day, awesome news, and sort of made it real hard to concentrate on work for the rest of that day. Thankfully, they called on a Friday. I think there's a couple things that really inspire and motivate me. I think, one of the big ones, especially now and thinking about this sort of new journey that I'm personally embarking on as an astronaut candidate, the people that really inspire me are all of the people that I interviewed with, and all the people that work at NASA, and all the people that I've sort of had talked to along the interview trail, friends, family, acquaintances that are excited about space. And realizing that I now get the opportunity to be an astronaut and to kind of be the sort of tip of this huge organization that's working towards and supporting human spaceflight, that really motivates me, realizing that I have the opportunity to do this. So it motivates me to be the best that I can be, and to work as hard as I can to be successful at this. So that's one thing that really motivates me. The other thing is my family, my wife and my daughter, and my parents and sister and extended family. That it's just super motivating that they've always been behind me for this entire process, and it's just really, really awesome to know that my family's behind me, and that continually motivates me in this. Yeah. So I think for me, probably one of the biggest memorable experiences from sort of back in high school was taking my first physics class. I'd always kind of been interested in math, science, computers, as a kid. And I was lucky enough to go to a math science magnet high school. And the first year of high school was the first time I took a class that was physics. And just learning about, I remember it pretty well. Mr. Donaldson was my ninth grade physics teacher. And I remember really well the first time realizing that you could use math and equations and kind of laws of the universe to figure out how things work, and kind of making that connection in my head, I think was pretty special for me, and kind of led me down the path that I've traveled through the rest of my career. Just kind of getting inspired by the fact that we could use a few of these simple laws to describe all of this complex behavior in the universe. Another experience that really that's very memorable from school happened a little later in college, and was when I got at this point, I was already on the path to becoming a physicist and actually an astronomer. And the first time I got to travel to a telescope in a pretty remote area, I got the chance to do this kind of twice in college, once to New Mexico and once to India, actually. But traveling to the actual site of one of these observatories and seeing, not just kind of reading about what it's like to be a scientist, but actually doing it as a college student was, made a pretty big impression on me, and set me on the course for, sort of academically continuing to graduate school and to work further towards becoming a scientist. Yeah, so I've been involved in a lot of different research. Right now, I'm working a lot on cancer and radiation, and it's really exciting to see all the things that NASA's doing in this regard, and in particular looking at space radiation and how do we attack those problems, because it's kind of the flip side of the coin. On Earth, we use radiation to help treat people to image people and also to help treat people with cancer. But in space, radiation is one of those things that is, potential risk when we're especially outside of low Earth orbit and on the way to the moon or Mars or beyond. And so it's kind of nice to be able to bring some of the research that I've been involved in and topics that I've been thinking about in my work as a medical physicist to bring that to my new role at NASA. I would say that I'm extremely excited, but also very nervous and intimidated. A little all of those about my training to become a NASA astronaut, and extremely humbled as well. I think I'm really excited to learn about a whole bunch of new topics that are things that I've read about, but now are going to be part of my job. I feel extremely lucky that that's going to be part of the next steps. And I'm nervous. It's making a big move to a totally new field. I've been working as a PhD physicist for my entire adult life, and a medical physicist for the past decade. And now I'm doing something completely different. That's an awesome feeling, because I'm getting the opportunity to do something new and exciting, but also a little bit nerve-wracking, because I'm going outside of my previous comfort zone. And I feel humbled that I'm getting the opportunity to do a lot of things that I used to dream about. So now I'm actually going to get a chance to do it. Yeah, I think I'm excited about a lot of things that are going on in spaceflight right now. I think one of the things that's awesome to see is all of the public interest that's really welling up right now as we are launching again from the U.S. and also working on sort of the next big thing of going back to the moon. I'm really excited by that, and about all the energy that I kind of see whenever I talk to people, about spaceflight. That people are really excited, and that kind of helps get me even more excited about it. But I think going back to the moon and really pushing out beyond is something that I'm extremely excited about. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of things about the first time I'm going to get to go to space. I think probably the biggest thing is one of the things that a lot of people who have been to space have always talked about is getting that first sort of overview effect of seeing the Earth from space, and how that kind of changes your perspective. And I think it's something I'm really excited to kind of see for myself and to kind of get that experience. I would say the other thing that I'm really excited about is, this is something I'm going to train for the next several years. And it's always really exciting when you're working really hard at something and training for something to then get to do it. So I'm looking forward to that aspect as well. So the best advice I've received about becoming an astronaut, I think, is throughout the selection process, we got the chance to talk to a lot of active astronauts, and I think one of the things that people always said is, don't forget to step back and pinch yourself and realize that this is actually your job now, and to keep that perspective of what an incredible opportunity this is. That's something that that stuck with me as a piece of advice, is to just, even on the days where things are tough and you're overwhelmed with things to do, to step back and realize just what an incredible opportunity this is and how much fun it is to go through the process. So that's a really good question. I think my dream destination in space is really anywhere. To tell you the truth, I mean, just being able to go up into space would just be phenomenal. I think I was really inspired, sort of as a kid, by reading the history of the Apollo program and sort of the lead up to that. Watching Apollo 13, that sort of thing. So the mission that we have right now of going back to the moon is something that really speaks to me as well. What's the least extraordinary thing that I do? It's a tough one. I would say, I like gardening and growing my own. Like I've always been really keen on trying to grow my own like vegetables and herbs. I'm not very good at it quite yet. I think we got like 3 tomatoes this past year, but it's something that I really like doing, and I'm trying to get better at. I think getting a basil plant to survive more than like a few weeks is high on my list of goals. Yeah. So a good study tip that I found helped me a lot is to find a group of friends or colleagues that are sort of interested in the same things that you are, and to work with them. I think that one of the things I found throughout schooling is that I've learned so much from my peers. In addition to my teachers, I've learned so much from my peers and talking to them, and sometimes concepts that didn't really click for me the first time when I learned about them in class. Speaking with a friend about how do you do this thing? Hearing it from a friend who's in kind of the same boat as me, could really help me to learn and to understand better. So, don't be afraid to build a study group, build a group of friends that are like-minded and work together, because you're going to learn a whole lot from them as well as from your teachers. So for me as a kid, I think the thing that sparked the biggest interest in STEM for me was actually, NASA and human spaceflight. I think I think one of my earliest memories thinking back was when I was in maybe kindergarten, of like drawing up or making a painting of I'm not a very good artist, but making a painting of like the space shuttle. And neither of my parents were particularly STEM heavy fields. I was kind of the weird one in the family for going in a STEM direction. I think NASA and the space program were what really sort of sparked that interest for me. And kind of kept that interest going. It's what led me to learn about physics, which I ended up pursuing for my PhD in astronomy, and is what kind of sparked it all for me. It's just space and human space exploration, realizing all of the things that STEM can lead to in terms of exploration and doing new and exciting things. Yeah, so I think one of the challenges that I had in school, that I think everybody has in school, is that sometimes there's just topics that are hard for you. And how do you get through that, especially when you're excelling in some areas of school, but other areas just aren't, you're not getting it in other areas. And I mean, I had that for me in some of my writing classes and some of my foreign language classes. And I think that the thing that kind of helped me through that was, again, having friends and peers that are going through the same thing, and just kind of being as tenacious as you can. That even if it's not going right for you, even if it's not easy for you, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you gotta maybe try a little harder in certain areas. And I found that was true for me. And there are certain things that I'm never going to be the best in the world at, and that's okay, right? Like, you don't have to be perfect at everything. So kind of taking those few things, that you don't have to be perfect at everything. There's always going to be some things that are going to be hard, for everybody. But if you find people to work with, and people are always going to be willing to help you. If you find people to work with, and you can kind of try your hardest, that you'll still get to an okay place.